been a bad 10-day period for Middlesbrough Football Club. First of all, there was the defeat after extra time in the Carling Cup tie at Nottingham Forest, and then the injury time setback at Bristol City in the Championship, followed by the club's failure to bring in a new striker on transfer deadline day. All in all, adds up to a few problems, certainly psychological ones that the club have got to deal with. Setback for Gareth Southgate, setback for the players, setback for the fans. Everybody's got to be strong, I presume, and try and deal with this and come through it. Life goes on, and certainly from Southgate's point of view, he'll now be looking at loan signings to try to bolster the side. But still a period of frustration, and it wasn't without want of trying that Boro failed to get anybody in on transfer deadline day. What you do question is why it was left so late. It did seem that everything was linked to Afonso Alves. On Saturday, Gareth was saying that there was no money and he wouldn't be bringing anybody in. And then all of a sudden we see that Alves is heading off to Doha for talks with Al Sadd. And the assumption was quite strong that the deal would go through and he'd end up moving to the Middle East. As things stand, he hasn't yet signed for Al Sadd, although he does have until the middle of September to do so. Still a confidence within the club that that will happen and that Alves will move on. But you still have to wonder why it was left until early on Tuesday morning before Boro really started to get stuck into trying to bring somebody new in as a replacement. Everybody knows, of course, that Rob Hulse was the major target, and the Boro did make a written offer believed to be in the region of £3 million for the Derby County striker. And the offer was accepted by the Rams, so in fact that was not a stumbling block. Nothing wrong with Boro's offer, it was acceptable, but when the offer was put to the player, the opportunity to move to the North East, he didn't want to come here. I don't think it actually reached the stage of discussing terms. I think Boro gathered quite quickly that he wasn't too keen. They did move on, they did explore other avenues. In Southgate's credit, he had prepared a very extensive list of potential targets. This ranged from people who could be signed for next to nothing to those who would cost £3 or £4 million. There were suggestions that Jermaine Beckford was one of the potential targets. That hasn't been confirmed. But I do know that Southgate was working off a very long list. His phone was absolutely red hot all day. He did pursue these targets, but unfortunately every single door was slammed shut. Very, very frustrating time. You do think that if more time had been made available to the manager, he possibly would have got there in the end. But convincing players to come to the North East these days isn't easy, unless you are prepared to throw silly money at players, and of course Boro are no longer in that position to do that sort of thing. I think they did try very hard, but without success. So we have to try and move on. I'm sure the players will be very frustrated. They're well aware, just as much as everybody else, that we needed a new striker. It leaves us looking at Leroy Lita and Marvin Emnes as probably flying the flag for the immediate future. I do think Lita will score goals. I think Emnes will from time to time. I don't think Emnes will be prolific, but between them they are capable of forging a decent partnership. I don't think Ali Adia will score goals, and of course he could have easily gone on transfer deadline day. Boro did agree in principle a deal for him to go to Fulham on loan until the end of December. I think Ali Adia probably would have gone, but Southgate pulled the plug on that when it became obvious that he wasn't going to find a replacement. So Boro must carry on with what they've got. It's possible, of course, that Alves won't go to Al Sadd in the end, that he'll still be here. If that happens, he will probably end up playing for the team on a regular basis. I think he will score goals in the Championship, though I don't think he'll ever be prolific, but probably at a better ratio than what he managed in the Premier League. But it's still more likely he'll be leaving, and that Southgate will have to pursue the loan deal route to bring in another striker. Who knows? We may have another guy in on loan before the next game against Ipswich Town. In fact, let's hope it happens to to bring that bit of competition up front and give the rest of the team a bit of a boost. Difficult times then for everybody, and an important period, because the next player that Southgate does bring in has to be the right one. Let's see what it brings, but it clearly is a case of everybody sticking together and battling through this period, because it's not an easy one.